Hi, my name's Keely from Abound Bindery, and I'm going to show you how to turn your book into a custom hardcover book. I covered off everything you need in a different video, so we're just going to get straight into it here. And the first thing we need to do is tear the cover off your book. There's no easy way to do this. You've just got to get in there and get it done. I like to try to save this first page here. So what I'm going to do is try and tear on a 45-degree angle. And you can see that it's coming away really easily from the spine here. And it's left that little thin strip of glue, but we're going to glue over that later anyway, so that doesn't really matter at all. And you can see there's no damage to that first page. And then we're going to go back, do the same thing to the other side, tear on a 45-degree angle. You can see it's left little bits of glue and paper sticking up there, but no damage to that last page. And you can just pick off those little bits and pieces anyway, and you honestly don't notice at all. What you're left with is the front and back page of your book, and you can do whatever you want with these. I've seen some people turn them into bookmarks. You can laminate them, chuck them out, use them as a keepsake, do what you want with that. Now we're going to measure our text block. So grab a scrap piece of paper, a pen, and we're going to take measurements of everything. So we're going to measure the width of the book, the height of the book, we're going to measure the depth of the spine. Any measurement you can think of, grab it, jot it down, because we're going to come back and use these later. Then we're going to cut our front and end papers. So this is what we're going to use to actually attach our book to the hardcover case that we're making. So you can see here, I'm just using a maroon colored cardstock. This is about 180 GSM, and I find that thicker tends to work better rather than just getting normal paper. It just secures your book in a little bit better than what other paper does. In half and just running my bone folder along that crease just to make sure it's nice and folded. And then we're going to cut it to size. So we want this to be the exact size of our book. Some people just put the book on top and measure from there, but I don't trust myself and would prefer to take the measurements that I took before, and I'm going to measure along the top, make the width the exact width of the book, and again make the height the exact height of the book. Sometimes people here do choose to make the width a little bit longer by 1 to 2 millimeters and say that that helps their book open better once you've cased it in. Now I have done that and I don't notice a difference, so I just use the exact measurements. To make sure my cuts are extra straight, you'll see that I line my measurements up to the grid lines on my cutting mat as well. And I just make sure that that top mark lines up with the bottom mark and that it's all straight and at a right angle. So I find that having a cutting mat with these lines does really help. And then I'm going to go in with my ruler. I mentioned before this has a cork back, so it's non-slip, because I'm also going to go in with a box cutter now. So you do want to be pretty careful with that. This is all going to be in real time, so go in with your box cutter, cut down those edges. You can use a guillotine or a paper cutter for this if you want, but I find that a sharp box cutter works fine for this. And then once you've made those cuts, we're just going to line it up against the book and just make sure that it is the width we want. As I said, it doesn't matter if it's a little bit longer, if there's a bit of overhang, but if it's shorter, you will have an issue with opening your book down the track. So just make sure that it's at the very least the same width as your book. And then we're going to go in and make that cut at the top. So we're going to, again, use the exact measurement of the book, line it up with the grid lines on the mat, go in with the ruler and just cut the top off there. Now that our paper is cut to size, again, we're just going to line it up against the book and make sure that the measurements are exact. The height, we do want it to be the exact same height. Again, don't go any shorter. Make sure that you're opening it the right way and just check everything lines up as it should. And then I've just gone and cut the other page in the exact same way. And now we're going to attach these pages to the front of the book. So we're just going to apply a really thin strip of glue just over where the glue from the old cover was. And you're just going to use your brush to smooth that out. I'm using a silicone brush here, but you can use anything. Again, you could measure this if you wanted to and be really precise, but it doesn't really matter as long as it's just about 1 centimeter in. You just want enough to adhere the book to the page. And then we're going to stick it on. So we're going to line it up with the corners on the side that you open the book, because that's where we want it to be all squared off against. So once you're happy with the placement, we're going to go ahead and press it down, run your finger along the seam, make sure it's really securely attached. You can also grab your bone folder at this stage and again, run it across where we're adhering that glue, just to make sure it's in there really firmly. And then we're going to go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. We're going to do the same thing, make sure your paper is facing the right way, square it off at the corners, press it down, grab your bone folder, run it along that seam again, make sure that it's really securely attached and that you're happy with the placement of everything. Now we have a crucial step. Do not forget this part. You are going to grab your text block, find out which way is up, which way is down, and you are going to mark the top and bottom on your spine. And you're also going to mark the front and back of your book. And this is going to save you a world of pain later on down the track. The amount of times we've all cased in a book back to front or put a ribbon on the wrong end. Save yourself the trouble and mark these now. You don't need a book press for this next part, but you do need a way to stand your text block up so you can either put it between some other books or just hold it in your hand. Now I'm going to attach my ribbon to my book. I'm using a 9mm gold ribbon here. If you don't want to have a bookmark ribbon, feel free to skip this step. And I'm not going to have a book charm on mine, so I'm just going to attach mine to the top and it's going to hang through my book and come out the bottom. If you did want to have a book charm, this might be the place where you might want to attach it to the bottom. And what you would do in that case is the bookmark would come up through the book and the book charm would hang out the top. But because I'm not doing that, I can just attach this to the top of mine. So I'm just going to apply a little bit of glue. I'm going to try to center that. I'm just going to eyeball it here. It doesn't matter too much, but you do see I just try to move it over a little bit here. And you're just going to secure that with a thin layer of glue. Once you're happy with the placement of that, we're going to move on to head and end bands. I made these head and end bands out of the same book cloth that I'm covering my bookcase in. I feel like it gives the book a really nice completed look when it does match, but I just need to cut this down to size. So you can see I'm just cutting the end off there. I'm going to line it up and I'm going to go 1 millimeter over on either side. I do like it to be just a little bit wider than the book itself. You could measure this and be really precise, but again, I'm just eyeballing this one and then I'm going to line it up and just cut the other one to the same size. You could skip head and end bands altogether, but I don't recommend it. I think it gives the book such a nice completed look at the end. And then what we're going to do is just glue these down. So put in a drop of glue, spread that out, and then each head and end band has a lip and you're going to just push it down until the lip is right up against the top of that book there. Push it down, make sure it's secured nice and firmly, and then we're going to go ahead and do the same thing to the top. We're going to go right over that bookmark, so put a drop of glue over the top, spread it out, and then again you're going to get your end band, line it up so that the lip of it is pressed right up against the top of that text block, and push it down nice and firmly again. Once you're happy with the placement of those, we're going to go in and put a thin strip of glue over the top again. The last step of preparing our book is to actually add mull to our text block. So what mull is a really thickly woven material that you use to actually attach the book to the hardcover. So we're going to line this up and we're going to have about 1.5 inches overhang on either side, and I'm just going to cut this down to size. You'll see I also cut the top off just to make sure we have about 1 centimeter space at the top and the bottom. Again, the sizing doesn't matter too much on these though, so keep that in mind when you're doing it. After we glue this on, this is also where you hear some people adding what's called a spine stiffener. So a spine stiffener is when, after we glue down this piece of mull, some people do attach another thin strip of cardboard over the top, just feeling like it gives the book extra strength. Now, I have done that in the past and I don't feel like it makes any difference to the final book. So I choose not to use it. I've even heard some people say that it can make your book feel a little bit harder to open. So because I don't notice a difference, I just don't do it. I find that having the mull, making sure you're getting the glue in all of those fibers, gives the book enough strength that it needs. So I would say don't skimp on this step. Make sure you're using a good quality mull. It definitely makes a difference and you won't find a need to have a spine stiffener in there as well. So I'm going to go back and forth over this a fair bit, really make sure there's heaps of glue in here. And once you've done this, your book is done. All you need to do is leave this for a couple of hours, let the glue dry, and then your text block is prepared. This is what your text block should look like once it's all dried. In the next video, I'm going to be showing you how to make your hardcover case, so follow along to see more.